So I'm here today with one of the co-founders of Snappi, Russ Hennings. How are you today?
Doing well. Thanks, Ian.
Excellent. So a lot of people who are tuning in or reading this blog, I'm sure they'd love to know just a little bit more about you and what you do at Snappi.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I've been a photographer since I was 16. I've always had a passion to capture moments in time and, translate them through photography. It's a passion. It always will be. I started working as a surf photographer at Surfing Magazine and traveled the world shooting the best surfers in the world. And then I worked my way through a career path where I went into commercial photography through a large sports apparel brand and kind of tailored my craft through the action photos. Then it went into learning how to shoot catalogs, and then went into learning how to shoot campaigns. And then now I've done all the traveling. I've gone around the world, and now I'm back. I have a family, 2 children, and I really want to stay focused at home. And part of that is having a studio where I can create, photography just here in my own little place.
That's excellent. And I know today we're going to be focused on the basic product photography tips. So essentially what goes into making a killer standout product image. But if you don't have this knowledge and you don't obviously have the amount of gear that you need in order to make award-winning product photography, what's another alternative out there for you?
Well, these days smartphones are really powerful machines. As with any machine, it's how you drive it, right? And the elements of photography can help, craft you with that, and the basic knowledge of the things that you would need to make a good image will help you if you don't have all the tools at your disposal that I do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I guess I've heard somewhere along the line that it's not the pen, but it's the writer that, really makes art. Or the other way of saying that is Shakespeare also used a fountain pen like every other author of that time. So, well, it's great to spend this moment with you. Really excited and eager to learn more from you about product photography. Before we get into that, and I know that that's going to be like the main segment of this, but I'd also love to just hear a bit about why Snappi was founded.
Yeah, it's a great point, Ian. Thanks. When we got together, we were dealing with the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we were looking at creative ways of helping the community. One of the things that really stuck out to me and us as founders was the fact that there are all these mom and pop brick and mortar stores that have products that they sell, not necessarily online, but they've sold successfully in the communities around our neighborhoods. And they are now being shut down where people can't go and, purchase their products and visit because of the stay-at-home orders and whatnot. And that really crafted the idea of helping these companies and these stores create an online presence. So, naturally we have the ability to create really, really stylized product photography and help people that don't necessarily have the imagery to support their sites or even a website. So that's available to them. And really that's how the idea spawned, is to just help out the community and get them started with photography for their website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're helping not only the existing small businesses that have an e-commerce store and are looking for ways to improve their product images and sell more product, obviously, but you're also up to helping brick and mortar stores who maybe had to close their doors actually find their way into a new business model, which includes selling online through e-commerce and using product photography, reasonably priced product photography to help them sustain their livelihood. That's really great. Excellent. Well, let's dig into it. Again, we're here to learn from you about basic product photography tips and, really starting at the highest level, and then we can get down into the details a little bit more. But let's talk about the principles of product photography. And within there, one of the fundamental principles is really, how do you approach the photo shoot? Like, before you do anything at all, how do you even approach a product photography photo shoot?
Sure. So really the first thing you need to assess is what your need is. Why are you there to shoot an image? What is it that the final outcome is going to be? And that'll craft how you approach the setup, what you need to do to prepare for it, and ultimately what kind of image you're going to have, to output. So it could be, you want to sell your product on Amazon, and Amazon has specific requirements that you can go and search, and they'll tell you exactly the requirements that they have for you putting a product on their site. So if that's a requirement right off the bat, we know that we have to do these certain angles, and it has to be out of white, and the white has to be a certain level. So, that approach, you right away know what you need to do there. On the other side, if it's for your e-commerce website, then it might need to fit within the color scheme of your website, or it needs to, if you have a feminine product or a masculine product, it needs to portray that. And the way that you're going to do that is through lighting, through background color, and through props if you want them. So all of that has to come into play. And really, successful photography occurs before you even take the photo. It's the preparation. And I like what you were saying earlier about the fountain pen, because really you can have the best cameras in the world, but if you don't prepare and have everything else to make that camera work correctly, then it's not going to turn out to be a good image no matter what. So it really is that preparation beforehand of thinking about, what really your outcome is going to be.
Nice. So just to, I guess, mirror back what I heard you mention, you mentioned that really the first step in planning is to assess what you need. So is it going to be an out of white shot? Is it going to be a photo shot against a colored background? What props might you need? Is it going to be a standalone product, or is there some prop that you could include to help communicate the value of the product, or maybe set the tone? You should consider the emotion and the best way to convey that emotion. It might be a masculine product or a feminine type product, and you can convey that through product photography. And then once you kind of have that checklist, you're in a much better place to actually take the photo. Is that right?
That's it.
Beautiful. So I've done my planning. I know the color scheme. I think I'm going to go with virtually no product props. What are the components or the pillars of now constructing that beautiful image, now that my planning is done?
Yeah, well, it all comes down to three things. It's really composition, clarity, and lighting. Now, by composition, I mean if it's composed like straight in the middle, or if you have it like to the side a little bit, it also depends on the output. So if you're just showing a product out of white that you want to show the front angle of it, then it needs to be composed so that it's in the center and that the background is not like overtaking the subject matter. If you're shooting a banner for a website, it changes the composition and how you shoot the product, because then it's a wider image that has your product small. And maybe it's that you don't even get the whole product in there, and you focus in on a tighter detail with that banner. And that all plays into like the composition of the image. So it's really important that you consider that when you're shooting a product. With clarity, I mean more the sharpness overall. You're going to achieve clarity through good lighting. You're going to achieve clarity through good lenses that you're using. And also through good output of an image that you would have digitally in Photoshop. So it depends on the output that you need, and those things are very important to, if you have limitations on your website or wherever you're publishing the image, it needs to be as high resolution as possible. And that clarity makes a difference when people are looking to buy a product. If they can see the details of the product and it's not soft or out of focus, then it helps you convert on a sale easier than it would if you had a poorly lit and out of focus shot. In conjunction with that, lighting is super important. And it's basically, lighting is photography. Without light, there wouldn't be an image. And the way that you control that light is what makes a good or a bad photo. So it really has to do with how you control the highlights of the product, the shadows of the image itself. And that balance between the two, it really plays a big part in having a successful image of your product.
So sounds a little complicated, but
Yeah.
Composition, clarity. It sounds like I should hire you to do this for me.
Yeah.
Composition, clarity, and lighting. If I forget all of those, can you give me like a one thing I have to do or be mindful of? Like, is there one major like flaw or faux pas, one trap, if you will, that I should avoid or try to avoid at all costs?
Yeah, I would say avoid out of focus images and avoid images that aren't lit from the front. That's not necessarily like a law, because there are times that I'll light images from behind, but in the most part, you want a really well-lit product that you can see the details on the front of the product and, you know, make sure it's in focus.
Okay. Makes sense. So good clarity and good lighting. How do you qualify good composition?
Yeah, so you would qualify, you can feel it. Like when you look at an image, and first you don't want like the key subject matter to be cut off or cropped out. You know, if it's an important feature of your product, that needs to be in the image that you're outputting. So whenever you go to take the photograph, it has to be shot far enough away that you can see the key selling feature of that product. So it really, it comes down to is your product being portrayed the best way to make a sale, right?
Nice. So for all of you who are still with us, we talked about planning for your photo shoot, what goes into a good planning process. And then we talked about the three components, the three pillars, if you will, that you need to adhere to, which is good composition, good lighting, and good clarity. Now let's talk about, I guess, the number of images and the types of images that we should be generating or we should be putting into our e-commerce library. So how many images do you typically capture for a single product?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, you know, for an e-commerce site, a customer wants to see the different angles of your product. For me, there's a hero angle, which is usually like a 3/4 shot. So when I say that, like front on would be right here, and then 3/4 would be just a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left. It's basically, if you were taking a 90-degree, you would cut it into a 45-degree angle and rotate it that way. So the primary shot should usually be a 3/4 shot. It shows off the depth of the product. It gives that sense of dimension, and it makes it a more elevated image. So 3/4 would be your primary. Like if you can only do one shot, get that shot. If it's a flatter product, just shoot it face on. But for the most part, there's going to be at least 3 images, if not max probably 7 images that you want to capture of your product. The first 3, which are most important, are the front, 3/4, and back. Those are what people are looking to see. And then when you want to develop your product more and show different angles or different views of it, then you can get up to 7, thinking about the top of the product, the bottom of the product, the front, back, the left, the right. you know, it really comes down to what you see as relevant to what the customer wants to know about your product. A lot of times if you have like apparel, you want to see if there's any logos on the sleeves on either side, or any like features on the front or the back. So those are important as well. I would say it's coming into more play. Like nowadays we're doing a little bit more add-ons with like motion. So we'll have a photo set and a video set on the shoot. And you're seeing it more now, and some of the larger brands are adding that additional angle, which is a motion angle, which shows off the key selling feature of your product in motion. So it adds an elevated sense to your brand, and we're going to be offering that soon. So look out for that.
Nice. Yeah, and we'll make sure to put a couple examples of what you're describing in the article. And I'm sure you may not know the data offhand, but we'll feature this as well. I'm sure that if you have the minimum 3/4 front and back shot, you have a much higher chance of selling that product. Am I right?
Oh, definitely. It's about information, you know, really it's information and trust. So if you can, you know, give your customer those angles as like, this is what my product is, it's a real tangible thing, then that builds the trust on this is a product that I will purchase because I can see that this is quality that I want to, you know, buy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. In a way, the product image is the only way for someone to really like visualize what it's going to be like to own the product. So if you have like any confusion, or if you're leaving any angle or any aspect of the product kind of left unturned or in the dark, then it's going to be harder for that person to really visualize what it'd be like to own, or, you know, put that product in their pocket. So yeah, I think you're speaking my language. I know that front, 3/4, and back super important. Are there any products in particular where the top or like an aerial view is also like a must-have?
Yeah, I think anything with a logo or information on the top of the product, that would be like a view you would want. Also, if it's a highly technical product, you'd want to feature like all sides of it to show like the technology that was developed in it. It really comes down to the details and in seeing that. For me, like if I'm buying a camera, I definitely want to see like the interface on the top of the camera. And it's those kind of features that you want that top angle of.
Right. So going back to your idea about clarity, it's not just having a really sharp image, it's also providing clarity to the viewer of what the product looks like, and, you know, where the different features or the different aspects of the product, what they contain, what information, as you put it.
Yeah, and I'd say it's transparency too. If you're thinking about selling a product, maybe it's something you're selling on Etsy or eBay, and it's a product that you've made. You want to show all the angles that show off the product, so that people can see, like, you know, okay, that has the things that I want on it, and, you know, oh, and then it's not scratched, it's not, you know, broken or anything like that. So if you're going that aspect and need elevated imagery to sell something, you know, of that nature, then it becomes really important that you show that angle.
Yeah. What if we go to the other extreme? Is there a point where like showing too much, like there are parts of myself I don't want people to see? So is there a point or an extreme where you're showing too much of your product and it's actually hurting your chance to sell that product?
Yeah, I mean, if it was a redundant angle, if it was, you know, repeating something that's already been seen, if it's just another degree of an image that you already have, then it's not necessary. That would be where it's too much. I would say if you err on the 7 that I mentioned, then you'll be okay, because then you can always choose to have either all 7 up, or you can take down some as you go and test the progress on your website and your user's experience, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say go crazy, but stick to the fundamentals.
Nice. And for those of you who are falling asleep and didn't catch the Magic 7, Russ Hennings mentioned the 7 magic photo angles that you need on every product. Minimum is 3, which would be front, 3/4, and back. But if you want to go for the Magic 7, we've got front, 3/4, back, and then we have top, bottom, left, right, left or right, I guess if they're the same, and detail.
Yep. So we didn't really talk too much about the detail. We kind of mentioned the motion and the video stuff that we're working through right now. That is a detail. So it shows off your key selling feature, right? So if you had a short that has a cell phone pocket, we would go in and like zoom in or like get closer so that we're showing more detail of the product. If your product has a texture that you want to show off, you would go in and like get a tighter shot, which we call a macro shot or a detail shot, and get that angle as well. So then you're showing the craftsmanship of the product, and you're really showing off that research and the development that you've done as a product engineer to the customer, and it gives them a sense of the quality that you're actually selling, and it'll help you, convert a sale on your website.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing all these tips and these professional advice. Thank you also for being the lead photographer at Snappi, which, reminder to everyone, Snappi is the one-stop shop to get professional photos and videos in a snap. So let's turn our attention now to some of the challenges. And it seems like a lot of challenges up until this point, but they're manageable. There are probably some things outside of that realm that pose even greater challenges. What would some of those be?
Sure. Well, the really challenging products to photograph are the ones that are highly reflective. Your challenge there is you're going to see everything that is lighting the product in that shot, and it's distracting and really poor photography that is an example of a reflective shot. You can see the photographer in the product that you're shooting. You can see the lighting behind it and all that. So that's really like, you want to kind of get away from that, and that's where like professionals have all kinds of like lighting modifiers and tricks of the trade that get around that highly reflective object. But for the most part, it is a real big limitation. And if you did have a highly reflective object that you wanted to elevate your photography with, then I would suggest reaching out to us and having us do it, because there's a lot that goes into it. Other than that, if you're shooting food, it's really difficult to utilize like food or shoot or capture photography of food, because you're dealing with a perishable item. It reacts differently to the lights on the set. The heat of the lights can create condensation on certain things. You're even dealing with like food settling in a bottle, like that makes it difficult. There's a lot of elements that go around like food when you're photographing it, and it's more difficult to capture on your own. So having it in a professional environment photographed is way better, because we're able to apply some industry tricks to that to make it a better product shot.
Nice. And it must be hard just to also stay consistent. Like if it's a different angle, making those little micro adjustments so the shot doesn't look like it's jumping around from one image to the next. Is consistency a difficult thing to manage as well?
It really is. And we have software that helps us like match everything that we're doing, especially with product lines that are, the more than one just product that you're showing. Even if you have like different products in your website, they all need to match. Like you need to have the same size, they need to have the same angle, and you have that consistency throughout your website so that, it doesn't look like a unprofessional website. So your quality in your user's journey is enhanced if everything remains the same, as far as the imagery goes when you're looking through e-commerce photography. Then you're going to have an expectation of, okay, every time I go and look for this angle, it's going to be there. And having that consistency, if you don't think about it up front, it's really difficult thing not to have, you know?
Yeah. They say the best design or the best photos in this case are, ones that you don't notice. So if you're scrolling through a long catalog of images and you're going product to product or page to page on an e-commerce store and the images aren't jumping around, it's like consistent, you won't even notice it. And that's a sign, obviously, that the photographer has done a really good job. Speaking of photographers who do a great job and brands out there that are maybe not at the bleeding edge, but certainly leading the charge when it comes to great product photography, do you have a handful of brands that maybe we should look at or consider when we want to see best practice?
Yeah, for sure. I was thinking about this question earlier, and I'm glad you asked it, because there's a brand called, it's not really a brand, it's more like I guess it is a brand. It's called Uncrate. It's an app and a website that features all the products that are up and coming. They're elevated products, and they each come from a different brand, and all those brands have different ways of like advertising and different color schemes and things like that. But Uncrate takes all that away and keeps it a consistent look and feel for their brand. So they take all the products that are up and coming and they light them in a certain way. And it's out of white, but it's totally different than like the Amazon photo you would expect to see.
Oh,
So
neat.
they've gone and they've created this look and feel, and every product that's on there, it has the same aesthetic. And to me, that's just awesome how they're able to do that, especially with all these other branded products that are supposed to be, branded the way that their companies want them to be highlighted. So I really like that site. Check it out if you can. And then, I'm a sports guy, so I really like Nike, and they do things really well. It's elevated photography. It's all the up and coming like photography and angles, and it's really a good litmus test to see that you're doing things right, because they have some of the best in the world working on their products. I really enjoyed seeing Lululemon come out with their campaigns on their websites. They show a lot of diversity, and they have, plus size models, they have regular models, just the whole gamut. And it really shows off their apparel and that they're thinking about the look and feel and the fit for all sizes. And that's important when you're a customer looking for that. I know firsthand, I'm a larger guy, so I'm always looking to see like what product will fit me. And, if I see a larger fit person on there, then it brings that trust, and I understand that they're thinking about me when they're making their product. So, I really think they're doing a great job doing that. And then there's companies that shoot product specific, like smaller products, where they sell smaller products. Like one's it's Voluspa. They make candles, and the way that they're capturing images of their product just makes it feel like it wants to be in my house. So they're propping things and really lighting it well, and like if you're taking a standard item like a candle and like elevating that with product photography, then they're doing a good job at that. So I appreciate what they did. And then also a company like Rolex for their watches. It's some of the most beautiful like imagery for product photography. If you check out that, like you'll really see how those detail shots can really sell a product. So check that out for sure.
Nice. Big important question here. Do you take your roly with a dab of ranch?
I need a rolly, huh?
Going back to our analogy, Shakespeare, he's sitting down, he's got his fountain pen, the blank page. He's done his planning. He has the idea in mind. Where does that inspiration come from? Like where you've shot, I'm sure, thousands of products at this point. where do you find inspiration to really bring out the best, or how do you find inspiration to bring out the best in yet another product shot?
Sure. Well, I think it comes to the last question of like who's doing the best. I always go online to really research those things and see what people are coming up with. I'll have my ideas, and I'll come up with something like outside of the box, and then I'll vet that. I'll go and do some research on it to see if it's been done. And if it has been done, because a lot of things in design have already been done, everything's, it's been recycled. So I'll go and see how someone else has done it and then see if I can add my spin to it. And what's crazy is like, you'll see, I used to be a surf photographer, right? And I would stand on the beach with 50 other photographers with all of the same cameras, all with the same lenses, exact same. And we would be shooting the same subject, yet only one or two of us would get the shot. Which is, it's weird to me, but it's a thing, right? So it comes when you have all those elements aligned, right? The shot will come. So part of that, and where I'm going with this, is it's more the research. It's more thinking about all the things we've talked about so far, and then applying it to when you go to push the shutter and take that photo, right?
Yeah, and it sounds like we shouldn't overshadow experience, right? Just getting a number of shots under your belt and maybe experimenting a little bit and kind of ruling out what's working, what's not working for you as a brand, so that you can actually get closer to that inspiring, well-lit, super compelling image.
Yeah. And there are other like ways to research. Like YouTube is by far one of the greatest assets I use. If you ever have a question about anything, you can go on YouTube and find an answer for it. So it'll help you with the technical aspects. If you're getting caught up on something, there's an answer out there for you, and use that as a resource. I also like Flipbook. It's like a magazine with the daily news articles and everything that you can like then search and filter like certain ideas. And one of them's like photography. You can even do like product photography, and there's articles all about that subject matter. So I really like that, and I'll read that one right before I'm going to bed, and it's really helpful to me.
Nice. That's great. So just to kind of wrap up this segment, our next blog is going to deal more specifically about some of the technical aspects like white balance, aperture, camera shake, things like that. But just to bring it full circle, Snappi was founded, this company that you founded, it was founded in order to help small businesses survive and help those businesses who maybe already have a good thing going, how to actually expand their growth and how to help them thrive even. So thinking through that lens, why is product photography still to this day so important to small business owners?
Sure. It becomes an attention span thing. It's what it comes down to, right? As consumers of everything, we want the easiest thing. And to me, I don't like to read as much as I do look at images, right? So if I'm scrolling through a website or if I'm looking online for something, it's way easier for me to see something visually and say, oh, that's what I'm looking for, than having to read through a bunch of text and say, okay, this is where I'm going with this. So if you're able to have something that's visually attracting you like that, and you say, that's it right there, it's instant. And, the cliche is like, what, an image is worth 1,000 words. And really, it's instant, right? When you see that image, you know exactly what you're going to get, right? And that's what's so powerful about elevated photography, is it'll stop you. And if you're online, it'll make you click that image, and then you're into the site. You're selling your product now, and you have a chance to convert on that sale.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you made me think that one of the biggest challenges facing small businesses is just to generate some level of awareness. And a great way to catch someone's attention, to your point, is to have some well lit, sharp looking images that are actually going to stand out, or at least stand up to that quick pass and catch someone's eye.
Yeah, and that's real, because it's a thing about trust too. If you see that an image has been shot correctly and it's not shot with your iPhone, you're gonna know that that's a professional product, and there's quality that stands behind it, because you're taking the time to do that professionally lit photo and convey that message in a way that means that you care about your product, right?
Yeah. Excellent. Well, again, thanks for spending some time with us and the readers, the listeners, the watchers. We're looking forward to hearing more about some of the more of the technical aspects. But just to kind of round out this segment, can you tell us where to find you and where we should go if we actually want to capture a really good image?
Yeah, for sure. You can reach out at info@snappi.us, SNAPPI, and we'll put it up here. But you can also check out our site at www.snappi.us, and you can learn a little bit more about our brand. My personal website is russhennings.com, and it has some examples of some of the work I've done in the past.
Yeah. And you mean to tell me that you're going to actually take care of these small businesses' products and actually generate this high quality product image for them, for their benefit?
That's it.
Wow. That's it. That's incredible. Thank you so much, Russ. Great chatting with you, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Ian. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.